All right, starting a little earlier than usual, guys. Good morning, everybody. Welcome aboard to the Morning Note. My name is Carlos Garcia. I'm the founder and CEO of Gar Capital. It is Thursday, August 29th, 2024, 8:34 Eastern Standard Time. We usually do this video at 9 a.m., but I'm starting a little early because I do have to step out at 9 a.m. To drive to the airport. So again, I will be back for the session, no problem. But again, got to take care of some things. Family comes first. And so yeah, here I am doing the video too. I still like doing the morning notes. So here we are. Good morning. We got some news. I wanted to wait for the some of the economic data to come out. The GDP just came out, as you can see on your screen. This is the live market blog on our Discord server. If you are interested in getting on or getting access, make sure to read the scrolling prompt at the bottom of your screen. It's in green, and you'll have access to the live market blog. That is free. The YouTube is free. The daily podcast is free. The idea is even if you are not a paid member, you still have access to great information so you can, navigate this crazy market. All right, Dow futures are up 284 points, a V-shaped recovery overnight. Nasdaq up 0.36%. Imagine NVDA is down pre-market after their stellar earnings. I went over their earnings on the podcast. Make sure to check that out. It is on Spotify. Search Gar Capital. S&P 500 futures up 0.32%. I still have SPY calls for Friday, so this is great news. I'm so happy that we bounced overnight. It's been an absolute wild one this week. 22.13 for Russell. I talked about that on the podcast last night, that I still like Russell Long, and it's pushing now. We'll take a look at that chart together. Dollar index is up today, just like it was yesterday. Up a quarter point, 101.34. 10-year treasury yields are up 3.85% currently. We're below 16 on the VIX, getting smashed. 1594 down about 7%. Crude oil is up 0.75%. Gasoline's up 0.68%. Gold's up and silver's up, even with the dollar being higher. So there you go. Always something to look at. Let's take a look at Forex land. 54 pips to the upside for dollar yen, 145.13. Bitcoin is up 2%, even with the dollar being higher. Interesting. 25.67 for Ethereum, currently up 2.4%. So tons of news to get by, but here's the main one today. US GDP Q2. This is a revised number. I know everyone likes to talk about revisions. Well, we just revised higher, 3% versus 2.8% for US GDP quarter over quarter. That is great news. America, baby. 231,000 people filed for unemployment this past week. That is below the expectations of 232. So I'm pretty sure the Fed is reading this and saying, whew, thank God. Here is the GDP revisions. If you want to take a look at that here on the live market blog, please watch it or read it at your convenience. CrowdStrike shares are down 2% despite an earnings beat by the cybersecurity company, while Salesforce stock is jumping nearly 6% after the software group boosted its margin outlook. NVIDIA is down 2% pre-market. It was down a lot worse overnight, about 7%, delivering guidance that could not meet heightened expectations. The real big deal with NVIDIA was really the margins, I believe. That's what I was reading. What I read from the actual report that kind of stood out was the CapEx, the expenses. So I guess if we're being very nitpicky about a great company that just had $30 billion in a quarter of revenue with about 74% profit margin, yeah, I guess NVIDIA is not for you. But NVIDIA is stellar. They had a great quarter. This is your really, really smart kid who got straight A's in their report card, but got a B in like PE. Like, what are we talking about? Still an honor student, but this is how it goes. Taking a look here at some other news this morning. We also have a 7-year note auction, bond auction. Raphael Bostic's going to speak today. That's a Fed president. We just had the jobless claims. We just had the GDP number. Pending home sales index at 10 and the Fed balance sheet at 430. Apple moves to a top AI pick at Citibank. That's boosting Apple. Thank you, God. We're on the way to that gap fill. I know I had a question yesterday regarding Apple, and it did boost. We were up 30% yesterday on the profit side on our 235 calls, and then flipped the worst. But we are bouncing back now. Thank you to Citibank's price upgrade and making them a top pick for AI. That is amazing. Also, another headline that happened overnight. Apple has ordered 10% more phones for sale, meaning the components and building and stuff, 10% more of iPhone orders to be made than last year. So they're preparing for this new super cycle. I think we're in iPhone 16 now. It's going to have a lot of AI stuff apparently, or AI tools, better camera. We know the same thing. It's a phone. Enjoy it. So with that being said, we can take a look at NVIDIA now. And NVIDIA on the 4 hour. Let's see it. Okay, bouncing off the 200 MA on the 4 hour. Remember that gap that we filled? Yeah, so we're back to it now at 121. The question remains, should you be a buyer on NVIDIA after earnings? And here's what I always say when it comes to earnings. 3-day rule. You should wait 3 days for all the volatility to go away. Listen, NVIDIA is not going to go anywhere in terms of, the stock's going to go to 500 tomorrow. No, so don't have FOMO. Let the market react to these earnings. Remember, these are algos fighting algos in a very low liquidity tape. Mind you, yesterday's volume for the S&P was the lowest since July, and before that, that was the lowest since November. So the second lowest volume day in terms of the stock market was yesterday. Everyone was waiting for NVIDIA. Now we got the analyst calls, we got price reiterations, reports, people read the stuff, and blah, 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 right? I expect NVIDIA to move higher this morning. Could it break 130? That's really the question. But if we're looking for downside, it's right around 115 as support. I would not run out and buy it today. There is no need. You didn't get a flash crash like you had in August. Fair. But at this moment, we know what they bring to the table. We have read those earnings. They were stellar. Straight A's across the board, but we'll give them a B plus because of their capex. They're a growing company. They have tons of cash in their balance sheet. If they want to throw a pizza party or two, so be it. I think I should trust a great company and a great CEO. NVIDIA is a winner, obviously. But 115 being support really is just a discount at this point. 130 being the breakout. You could see this downtrend here. You can see a possible inverse head and shoulders. We tagged 115. So again, 130. If we can get above there, that's about $10 from where we are. If we can get above there, I think 135 is coming. That's just my opinion on that. Apple. This is what we have open. Apple moving pre-market. Yes, about $3. That's great. Gap fills right here at 230, 203. Someone asked me yesterday regarding Apple. They should get in. I hope they did, because if they did in the morning, they would have made their money. So congratulations. I forget the name of somebody who asked about it yesterday, but great stuff. Apple, I still am looking for that 230, 203 daily gap fill. This is the 4 hour because the daily does not show pre-market action. Just a heads up. Qualcomm, even though NVIDIA is coming down, actually Qualcomm is up slightly. But you could see this chop range, guys. We got to get something here. So if NVIDIA does pop and reverses and moves higher, I believe Qualcomm will be a beneficiary. We're just going to have to wait because it's just chop. And Citibank now above 62. Hey, get me above 62.82. We got 64. We had a really great GDP number. You can see value stocks in the Dow are green. Banks are where it's at. I still believe in banks and small caps in this rate cutting cycle. So we will see. It's only Thursday. And yesterday was pretty sad. We're like, oh no, it's going to be a tough week. But Apple come into play. SPY is ready to break out. We tagged that support of 555, talked about that on the podcast, bounce off it. I didn't think we'd bounce like this, but 561.48, that 161.8 fib, if we can recapture that today, we will get our breakout by the end of the week. This is just frustration station, and I hate it. And I'm sorry, guys, and I'm being completely honest. I do not do this to stress you out. This is just the market right now. It's August. I hate the summer. It's just what it is. After Labor Day, guys, next week, that's when the volumes start kicking in. So we're going to have our opportunities. The year isn't over. The week ain't over. Hell, the month ain't even over. So let's take our time today. Let's see if the market gives us a little momentum. We've got some great news. Bulls, take it from here. NVIDIA has killed me. Yeah. And this is why I didn't want to trade NVIDIA pre-earnings. I mean, who knows what happens in the morning? Maybe it pops higher in the morning. It's just a very, very tough trade to trade earnings. Oh man, it's really a roulette wheel there. Target to the downside. I think Target broke my alert to the downside yesterday. I think we talked about this one before, about this gap fill, right? But we just had really great GDP numbers and good labor numbers. So anything cyclical, anything that's consumer discretionary, more than likely is going to do well today. So Target kind of fits that build. Maybe Target gets to like 159 today, maybe 160 with a little help. But this downside gap is still a problem. So 155.5, I did not see any volume when that alert broke. But if it does break 155, we got 148.83 just to fill a gap. That's it. Not all gaps have to fill. And we're still of a breakout here of this downward trend line. But hey, if the opportunity arises, maybe October gets really bad. We will see. Where's the resistance for Apple? Apple resistance is the gap fill. That's what I have next. 232.07 or so. IWM, yes. Small caps. I love it. Okay, so you see that flag. We broke out of it. V-shaped recovery. We're pretty much just stuck here in this upward wedge. Do you see it? Broken it below before, it broke above it before. And now we just got to wait for 222.63 to get us higher. And right now we're at 218.92. So a little ways out. But we will see if, even with this good news, does IWM benefit? And right now, looking like it is. It is leading in terms of the indices out there. Any thoughts on the yield curve and uninverting, which is actually a good thing, mind you. We don't want an inverted yield curve. What that means is that when shorter term bonds, in terms of yield, are paying higher than longer term bonds, which takes away any real demand for longer term notes. Usually, when it comes to finance, the longer the time period, the more yield you should get, right? Think of it this way: 15-year rate mortgage should always be cheaper in terms of interest rate than a 30-year. And the day that the 30-year is cheaper in terms of interest rate versus the 15-year, that would be an inversion. How many people would apply for a 30-year mortgage if they can get a lower rate than a 15-year or a 10-year? Same situation. When it uninverts, it really just means that we're getting back to a stabilization in terms of the bond market, where things are going to get relatively back to normal, where short-term notes are going to get more of the demand and have lower rates than the longer-term counterparts. Now, when you have a sharply rising rate environment like we just had in 2022, what the bond market was timing was how many rate cuts and how quick. And that's where TLT and all these names were, all the bond proxies were falling in value, because now treasury bonds are going to pay more. Why would I want to buy longer term if I could just get time in the short term? That's how that works. Remember, bonds are the smart money. Okay, debt is the biggest sales thing out there. The equity market's big, but the bond market is really big and complicated as well. I have the Apple 230 calls for this week. I'm break even at current price. Do I sell or I keep holding for here? I think you keep holding for here. You still got a day. You're in the money. As long as you stay above in the money, I think you should be fine, because I believe, I really do, now that we had this GDP number, that was a good one. 3% is great. We'll get that gap fill. And that really great note from Citibank, thank you. And the 10% increase in iPhone orders. Apple's ready to go. This is what we were expecting. This is what we were expecting. And finally, it's coming to fruition. I love it when a plan comes together, at least for now. Sell. And Mal says, sell it. Citi. Let's do it. Citibank, 62.82 is what I need. This is just sideways action, stress, frustration station. You gotta give me something. Finally, we got some good news. Let's see how we do at the open. Let's do CRM, which is bouncing. I had an alert above 271. Why did I have that alert? Because you have a gap to fill at 277. Keep an eye on the 275 strike calls. I don't know, obviously, which would have the most, because the the market isn't open. Options chain has to be open. But you also have 293. And this is a breakout of this downward trend line. So CRM looks bullish here. Let's see if we fill this gap above 277. We're about $7 away. If you play the options on that, I am sure the 275 strike will have the highest volume. If not, it'll be the 290s. Let's see, Amazon. Amazon was flirting with the 200-day moving average, or it's slightly below it. Next level of support is 165. So now you're in between. Where are we going? Since 175 is literally the median, the right in the middle point of 183 resistance and 165 support. So it's really going to depend on the closing of Amazon. Can it get back above the 200-day? That's really the key. There's not many catalysts out there. We're not exactly in Christmas season yet. It's just basically the fall. Let's see if Amazon does bounce back from these levels. But again, as of right now, I would say it's one of the weaker ones at least in price action among the major mega cap names. And you're welcome. Microsoft. Microsoft right on the 200-day, but it's still holding up of this upward channel. And it's right at 402. Now it's at 413. 402 being support, 413 currently. I have an alert at 426. That's still $13 away from what I'm looking for. So you can see kind of the ping pong action. Up, rejects, bounces. Up, rejects, falls, rejects, bounces. And now here we are on the lower end of that channel until we'll get above 426. Really, all we're looking for is to get back to ping ponging away. We're just kind of going back and forth in this tennis match between bulls and bears as the trajectory for Microsoft is still moving higher. It's a great company to own. What's the move for gold and silver calls? Good question. Let's do GC. This is gold futures. Very similar to S&P, just chop at this moment. But it is flagging now, and you can see how it is breaking out. You see this channel here. And really the question remains, can we get above or stay above 25.14? That's your 20-day moving average. Just really depends on this dollar. The dollar hit some major support right around 130 cents. And that was the 200-week moving average. So unless the dollar breaks down, right now, I still like gold longer term, but for a trade, you're going to have to wait on that one. You could see here, until we break below $100.33, that's your weekly 200-day. We haven't been below that since November 2022. See that right there? November 22. Silver, let's see it. SI. And silver on the weekly is above the 20-week moving average. Let's see. Again, another one that I do like longer term. It is flagging. Should break out soon. More than likely, that's going to be something to deal with the rate cut, in September. But in terms of silver and gold, I mean, there's a lot of action, a lot of move higher on both of them. So it's really going to be dependent on the dollar. And I would not be surprised if gold can get below maybe 25.25. Might be a short to 2,500, possibly. Very, very difficult to trade. Not the easiest in the world, but we will see. Again, it's still holding up. Stay above 25.25 or 2,500 on gold futures, and I think we'll be all right. For more upside, again, based on the dollar because it is denominated in dollars. So gold, Bitcoin, crude, all that is obviously all based in dollars. The dollar moves up, it's going to affect it. So that's how we're watching it. That's why the Fed is so damn important. All right, one more check on where we are. RTY, again, that flag. Apple's moving. All right, so let's see if we can get above 19,500 today. And you got a target of 19,600. And I hate to be that guy, but that might be a sell. You sell it at 19.6, use that as resistance. The second I say we're going to fall, that's when we soar, of course. But that's how it goes. What a crazy, crazy week. Let's see if today's better. Monday was bad. Tuesday was good. Wednesday was bad. Thursday should be good, right? If we follow that pattern, that's totally scientific, obviously. Have a great rest of your Thursday. I will catch you guys later on today for the GAR Capital podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate it as always. See you then. Cheers all.